On this Wednesday night, fears of another flare-up. Some Alberta farmers fight to protect what's left of their property.
We've lost our entire farm, all our livestock, our whole life.
Controversial changes are waiting in the wings for Canadian passports.
Why is he deleting our veterans from our history?
Plus, how it'll be easier to renew your passport. A rookie Republican congressman charged.
It's a witch hunt.
His litany of alleged lies and the potential repercussions for his party. And no way to Nomo May.
This makes no sense.
Busting myths about this month's movement to keep your grass growing.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Neetu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Fire-ravaged Alberta is bracing for more extreme conditions. Hot, dry weather is threatening to fan the flames of wildfires burning across the province. In some areas, temperatures are expected to hit 30 degrees in the coming days. There are still more than 70 active wildfires burning across Alberta. 24 of them are out of control. One is threatening the town of Drayton Valley, now estimated to be about 3,500 hectares.
So far this year, we've had 421 wildfires burning 410,000 hectares. For context, that's about double the average area burned for the entire wildfire season, and it's only May 10th.
Our Yourex-West is just outside Drayton Valley, where the flames have destroyed at least 4 homes.
I actually haven't even looked. I've stayed away because I don't think that I can do it.
Tracy McDonald has been trying to stay strong.
It's hard to look at.
For days, she and her partner Adam Norris tried to protect their farm from the Bush Creek wildfire. But the flames returned again and again.
We've lost our entire farm, all our livestock, our whole life.
The first time the property caught fire, it was quickly brought under control. The couple fled, but believed their pigs and chickens would be okay.
We felt kind of confident that they were fairly safe, and then when the wind changed directions, it took them.
And then, that night, their house caught fire as well.
There was no fire department that had came for that. I know they were busy with wildfires all across. Neighbors over there lost houses well.
Since then, McDonald and Norris have been too afraid to leave, worrying about what the hot weather will mean for the area in the days ahead.
We're very concerned. We're very concerned that it's going to light up in that forest again.
McDonald's property is inside the evacuation area that includes the town of Drayton Valley. That's more than 7,200 residents who are still waiting to find out when they'll be able to return home. It's been almost a week since the Bush Creek fire forced residents to pack their things and go. And while cooler weather and a bit of rain have helped with the firefight, town officials say it's still too dangerous for people to return.
Not much left here to burn. It's, a trailer. It might come through the front trees or something, but I'm more concerned my neighbors are in trouble as well.
It's why, after suffering so many losses, McDonald and her partner plan to stay right here, protecting what they have left. Yourex-West, Global News, near Drayton Valley, Alberta.
After Canadians faced long lines when renewing passports, the federal government has announced long-awaited plans to take that procedure online. The change is set to start in the fall and is aimed at reducing the months-long wait times many faced last year. But after today's announcement, controversy quickly sparked, not over how Canadians applied for their passports, but what that document would look like when it arrived. Eric Sorensen explains.
New passports are coming this year that will be more secure and can be renewed online. That's the headline, but what's getting all the attention are the new pictures inside. Passports are redesigned every 10 years, in part to make them harder for counterfeiters. But the new ones will eliminate many iconic images from the past, from Nellie McClung and Terry Fox to the first Spike and historic figures like Billy Bishop. Instead, the new passports will show more generic scenes of Canada's landscape and people and wildlife.
This new design will not only be more secure and reliable, but I believe it will also continue to inspire pride in the hearts of those who carry it.
Might not inspire everyone. Dropping Terry Fox brought this from the mayor of his hometown. The decision makers should give their head a shake, he posted. Our country needs more Terry Fox, not less. And expunging the Canadian Vimy War Memorial in France has upset the Canadian Legion.
This image represents sacrifice. It represents the sacrifice that actually led to the very freedoms that allow us to travel with our passports around the world today.
Why is he deleting our veterans from our history?
Of course, politicians could not resist.
He's erasing them, and with that, he is insulting all of our veterans.
Suddenly, it was all about veterans.
They wrap themselves in the flags and the symbols anytime they can, but in fact, they nickeled and dimed our veterans. They used them for photo ops.
And that exchange is over one picture in the passport. There are more than 20 that will disappear. The Founding Fathers, explorers, the Mounties. The images that are being extirpated only appeared in 2013. In the passport before that, it was just a series of maple leaves. The Minister of Citizenship, on the defensive, says the new designs are about security, not erasing Canadian history.
There's no feedback we received that says people found our history offensive, and this was meant to reflect a different part of Canada's heritage, in particular our natural environment and the diversity of our people and wildlife.
For those who travel, the images are often obscured by stamps anyway. And those who don't travel may never turn to the blue nose on page 35. A year ago, passport lineups upset Canadians because of staff shortages. The recent public service strike delayed passports again. And now the new design is distressing some Canadians. Lately, it seems, Canada's primary travel document is a passport to controversy. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
The U.S. is preparing for a surge of migrants at its southern border as the Biden administration scraps a COVID-era policy that gave border agents the power to block and turn back asylum seekers during the pandemic. Long lines of migrants have already started gathering on Mexico's side of the border. The policy, known as Title 42, expires Thursday night, 1 minute before midnight. It's expected Customs and Border agents will process and allow migrants into the U.S. border cities until their status is resolved. At least 6 people have died and about 1,000 people have been detained in Pakistan after the arrest of opposition leader and former Prime Minister Imran Khan on corruption charges. Today, Pakistan's current leader said protesters will be dealt with using an iron fist as a court ruled the former cricket star can be held by investigators for 8 days. As Redmond Shannon reports, Khan is the latest in a long line of opposition leaders who've been arrested or imprisoned in Pakistan.
2 days of mayhem in a country already on the brink of financial ruin. Supporters of former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan faced off with police, and some set fire to buildings. Furious after Khan's dramatic arrest on corruption charges on Tuesday. There have been large, more peaceful demonstrations around the world too, including in Canada. On Wednesday, a court ordered the former cricket superstar to be detained for 8 days as part of a second corruption investigation. This is not an arrest, but a state abduction, said his lawyer. Khan's party colleagues say this arrest is simply a tactic to prevent him from running in this fall's elections.
When they saw the most popular leader in the country being dragged by Islamabad police, there was a reaction all over the country. Protest is their legal constitutional right. Keep it peaceful.
Khan was ousted as PM last year and months later survived an assassination attempt, which he blamed on his replacement Shehbaz Sharif. Already hundreds have been arrested, and Sharif says an iron fist will be used to deal with the protests. These demonstrations much larger than when he was arrested as opposition leader 3 years ago. Sharif was later acquitted of money laundering.
There is a long and well-established tradition of incarcerating political leaders.
Pakistan analyst Farzana Sheikh says it often comes after a politician has fallen out with the ever-powerful military, just like Khan has. She says some are even speculating the military is allowing violence to spread.
To a point where some kind of emergency rule may become necessary.
Pakistan's military has forcefully taken power 3 times since the 1950s. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip have fired hundreds of rockets at Israel. The latest violence comes a day after Israeli airstrikes killed at least 16 Palestinians in Gaza. Israel's powerful Iron Dome air defense system intercepted at least 62 projectiles. It's the heaviest fighting between the two sides in months, leading to concerns about full-scale war. One day after the Republicans' frontrunner for presidential nominee was found liable of sexual abuse, the GOP has a new crisis. Coming up, why Congressman George Santos has been hit with criminal charges. Plus, why an American sportscaster is apologizing to a Canadian hockey player. And the top dog making history at a prestigious competition. Controversial U.S. Congressman George Santos was arrested on charges related to multiple federal crimes, including fraud, money laundering, and lying to Congress. The New York Republican pleaded not guilty to the 13-count federal indictment and says he's ready to fight the charges. And as Reggie Cecchini explains, hefty ramifications for his party could also be on the horizon.
In this suburban Long Island courtroom, Congressman George Santos, not even 4 months on the job, was arraigned on 13 charges stemming from a lengthy web of falsehoods.
The reality is I'm sorry, it's a witch hunt. I'm going to take care of clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that.
Prosecutors say they're unraveling lies that took years to stitch together, alleging Santos was involved in fraudulent schemes and brazen misrepresentations.
The evidence must be absolutely overwhelming for the prosecutors to have put this together this quickly.
The embattled congressman's frequent fabrications have made him something of a mockery. He claimed he lost his mother during the 9/11 attacks when, in reality, she wasn't in the country. Santos also said he came from Jewish ancestry, which was walked back in a cringeworthy way.
I always joked, I'm Catholic, but I'm also Jewish.
Hold on. Beyond the false facts of his personal life lie more legally perilous matters. The charges of wire fraud stem from allegations he accepted COVID relief funds while employed and running for office, and that he embezzled campaign donations. He's also accused of lying to Congress about his income and wealth. Conviction could result in decades in prison.
In America, there's a presumption of innocence, but they're serious charges. He's going to have to go through the legal process.
Scrutiny over Santos's cloud of chaos didn't impact his ability to win or be sworn in, but did result in a reduced role.
Santos we never put on committee, so he won't serve on committee.
After pleading not guilty, he was released on $500,000 bond, meaning he can still report to work, despite colleagues' concerns.
Bottom line is his conduct has been embarrassing and disgraceful.
The level of fraud, the level of extremism, the continued lies throughout all of this, these are things that we've known.
Santos is refusing calls to resign and in fact says he will run again for re-election, resulting in a growing push to expel. But that's something that party leadership is weary of because it would trigger a by-election and it would open up a possible pickup for Democrats and further reduce an already razor-thin Republican majority. Neetu?
Reggie Cecchini in Washington. Thanks, Reggie. An ESPN anchor has apologized for mocking an Indigenous hockey player's name during a Sports Center segment.
Zach Whitecloud. What kind of name is Whitecloud? Great name for your toilet paper.
John Anderson, who made the comment, released a statement saying he blew it. Whitecloud says he accepted the apology after talking with Anderson in private. The Las Vegas Golden Knights defenseman is the first NHL player from Sioux Valley, Dakota Nation, which is about 3 hours west of Winnipeg. Migrant mercenaries ahead Russia's attempts to recruit frontline fighters from Afghanistan. To a breakthrough now in Bakhmut, where Ukrainian troops have pushed back Russian forces. A top Ukrainian commander says a Russian brigade abandoned positions on the city's southwestern outskirts, retreating by up to 2 kilometers, the result of repeated counterattacks by Ukraine's resistance. The eastern flashpoint city in the Donetsk region has been a primary target of Moscow's military offensive and has seen some of the bloodiest ground battles since the war began. As fighting drags on, Russian forces are seeing massive losses on the battlefield. The U.S. estimates as many as 100,000 Kremlin fighters have been killed or wounded. And it appears Moscow may be looking for recruits outside its borders. Global News spoke with former Afghan special forces who say their comrades have taken up arms to fight for Russia in Ukraine. Taria Isri and Shagufa Danish report.
Afghan special forces were designed to create elite, homegrown commandos to fight the Taliban. They were trained by NATO countries, including Canada. But after Afghanistan fell in 2021, these highly skilled operators found themselves on Taliban kill lists, targeted for their extraordinary skills and their history of hunting top Taliban commanders. Now the former commander of Afghan special forces says Russia is trying to recruit his troops who fled to fight on another front line, the war in Ukraine.
I said, Ukraine and Russia is not your country.
Global News spoke to 3 ex-members of the Afghan special forces, including Lieutenant General Mohammad Farid Ahmadi. They allege Russia, through intermediaries in Iran, is trying to lure Afghans to the war in Ukraine.
They're receiving offers, and some of them already gone. And most of them rejected.
This recruitment letter circulating on social media promises a monthly salary of $1,500 US from the moment they enter Russia and a Russian Federation passport. It can be a hard offer to turn down for former Afghan special forces members living in Iran illegally, like this man. Global News is protecting his identity because of the threat of deportation. My friend, who is another former Special Forces member, went to fight for Russia 2 months ago. We haven't heard from him since. The situation is harsh in Iran, but if my family and I return to Afghanistan, we will be killed. That's why I'm considering fighting for Russia. So is another former Afghan Special Forces member who spoke to Global News and asked to remain anonymous. It's better to fight for Russia than let my family starve. With the conflict in Ukraine dragging into its 2nd year, Moscow is desperate for soldiers. The Kremlin is relying on mercenaries like the Wagner Group and releasing convicts to take up arms.
Right now, the popularity for the war is domestically is starting to decline.
A British intelligence report says Russian military recruiters are targeting Central Asian migrant workers in Russia to serve in Ukraine at mosques and immigration offices. The Ukrainian-Canadian Congress says it's another sign the Russian armed forces are running out of people willing to fight.
Russia is trying to exploit poverty in other parts of the world.
When asked by Global News about the allegations, the Russian embassy said it had no information on this topic. The former Afghan Special Forces members we spoke to say they don't want to fight for Russian forces, but say they feel abandoned by Western governments, including Canada. The Canadian government will not allow Afghan Special Forces to come here as part of Ottawa's refugee pledge. So the former soldiers are running out of options. Taria Isri, Global News, Ottawa.
To grow or not to grow? Next, why experts say Nomo May makes no sense.
Best in show tonight is the PBGB.
Buddy Holly, a Petit Basset Griffon Vendéen, won the top prize at the Westminster Dog Show last night. It's the first time the breed has ever won in the event's 147-year history. He had some tough competition, though, beating out 6 other finalists. Rummy, the Pekingese, was aiming to bring home the 3rd trophy in 11 years for his breed. And you may remember Winston, the French bulldog that came so close last year when he came in 2nd. Always the bridesmaid. Proper grooming is a big part of being best in show, but there's a new movement to keep things a little more wild when it comes to your lawn. It's called Nomo May. The idea is not to cut your grass before June 1st, and that allowing spring flowers and weeds to grow will help bees to pollinate. But is that true? Mike Drolet finds out.
You know spring has sprung when the first pollinating happy bees start buzzing around. Yet the wildflowers they crave are still scarce. And that's how Nomo May was born. Now, how Don't Cut the Wildflowers bloomed into Don't Cut Your Grass is the question.
Nomo May is certainly catching on. You're seeing municipalities all over signing up for it. Nomo May, Nomo May, Nomo May. Well, in theory, it sounds like a great idea. But here's the catch. Nobody thought to ask the experts, the people who study the science of grass, what they thought.
So we took our questions to Guelph, Ontario and the Turfgrass Institute, home to the foremost experts on grass in the country.
And I just thought about it for a little bit and I thought, this makes no sense.
It didn't take you long to think about it.
No, it makes no sense. It's not something we should be doing, particularly in Ontario and in most places in Canada.
Why? Well, for starters, rodents, fleas, and ticks thrive in long grass. And without flowers, there's no pollen anyway. And no, dandelions aren't worth saving.
It doesn't have very high nutrition pollen, and also, if it wasn't tolerant to mowing, we wouldn't have them in lawns. You can mow dandelions.
As for the science of lawns, the shade from longer grass or excessive trimmings left behind prevent new growth, creating room for more weeds.
I don't think this would ever take hold, because what will happen is people learn what happens when you don't mow in May. The people who do it will end up not having lawns.
Except the ever-catchy Nomo May is taking hold, despite an easy solution from the grass experts. Encourage people to plant wildflowers.
What's your catchphrase?
Hashtag plant natives, or hashtag mow as needed, right?
You need to work on that.
It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Science rarely does. Mike Drolet, Global News, Guelph, Ontario.
And that is Global National for this Wednesday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada is Bredor Lake in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Have a great night.